For example, decisions in terms of introducing a new product, right? Or decision in terms of M&A, right? That also involves some amount of scenario planning, which is where analytics and AI is helpful.
We are going to look into tax and compliance domain and see how analytics and AI is playing a critical role in the way the tax and compliance are applied.
So we usually adopt 2 or 3 techniques from a compliance reporting point of view and then audit. So whenever an AI, for example, an AI-based system is used for categorization, we also supplement that with a rules-based system.
I'm particularly curious about the e-commerce business, which faces complicated taxing implicability.
Correct.
And so can you help picture for us how it looks like for e-commerce taxability, just by maybe giving some examples?
One important key feature that I talked about is the overall data harmonization piece. Because it is important to bring in data from all of these multiple systems and then ensure that we are talking the same language and then building a structured reporting system on top of that.
Hello and welcome back to AI Connect, where we discuss data, analytics and AI. Today we are going to peep into a very different area which we have never spoken on this podcast. We are going to look into tax and compliance domain and see how analytics and AI is playing a critical role in the way the tax and compliance are applied. And to discuss further about this topic, I have Shiva with me. So Shiva,
Hi Jaideep.
hi, welcome. I think this is a very, in my opinion, it's very interesting area, tax and compliance, which is not spoken widely, especially in the context of analytics and AI.
Correct.
But it's an emerging area. It's an area of opportunity, especially for companies who have complex tax and compliance situations.
Correct.
So I would like to understand if you can help this lay the land of how this looks like from tax and compliance perspective on the analytics side for our viewers. Maybe we can get started from there.
Sure. Yeah, as you said, Jaideep, it's a very nascent area and also not very talked about. For example, other areas like customer analytics, sales analytics, we hear a lot about. But tax and compliance is a very key and important area where analytics is being used, and there is a lot of scope for AI and automation as well. And primarily, if we were to look at it, right, there are 2 broad areas where analytics is being used. One is strategic planning and creating aspects around how the organization can adapt themselves to changes in tax or the way tax laws are written and the way taxation is there. And then the second one is compliance. So making sure various aspects of compliance are adhered to as the business changes. We do quite a bit of analytics in various sort of subdomains under this. So first one would be to create a decision support system based on how the taxation is happening, how we are charging our customers, how we are charging our partners, and the entire flow of money around tax, right? So how do you make different decisions, for example, decisions in terms of introducing a new product, right? Or decision in terms of M&A, right? That also involves some amount of scenario planning, which is where analytics and AI is helpful.
And what kind of companies would this be? Like, these are retail companies or these are
It is across.
companies?
It is across. Some of these areas are across various industries, and they are not very specific. There are retail and other specific nuances to each of these aspects. But yes, broadly, these areas are applicable to all companies, all enterprises. The other one is about compliance. I mean, are we adhering to various tax laws, especially when it involves multiple jurisdictions? Jurisdictions can be multiple states, multiple countries. You might be procuring goods from one country, doing some value add, and then exporting that good or service. So then there are multiple jurisdictions involved. You have to comply to various laws, and then making sure that the value added tax is added to at each phases of the life cycle of the product or service. Yeah, and where analytics comes in is making sure that you are complying to all of these. And also, when you're introducing a new service, how can we actually plan for it? Right? What does your cash flow looks like? Who needs to take care of what part of the tax? So those are where there is a lot of analytics that's being driven. Yeah.
I'm particularly curious about the e-commerce business, which faces complicated taxing implicability.
Correct.
And so, can you help picture for us how it looks like for e-commerce taxability, just by maybe giving some examples?
Yeah. E-commerce is a very complicated business in from a taxation point of view. First of all, most of the e-commerce companies are platform companies. They facilitate transactions between buyers and sellers. And some of them are sellers themselves, right? So that's where the nuances also come in. The second part of it is usually there is large volume of transactions, both from a volume of goods that are being sold and also from the number of SKUs that are being sold. So if you take, for example, a grocery delivery company or a food delivery company, right, you have humongous amount of variations in the products that are being sold through the platform, and the products may originate in different jurisdictions, and they may be sold in different jurisdiction, and based on the value add to the product, then there could be different taxations involved, and all these need to be caught and all these need to be captured at real time. And then there are also nuances around who is responsible for paying the tax. Is it the platform company? Is it the seller or the merchant? And then buyers also have different payment mechanisms. So buyers will also have different payment mechanisms. So based on that, also your tax can change. For example, if you have food coupons and you're buying food or grocery, then there may be a different taxation. If you're paying cash or if you're paying through credit card, there may be a different taxation. So that is what complicates the whole scenario from a tax perspective in a lot of these e-commerce platform companies. Obviously, volume of the transactions is very high. You need to make decisions at real time, and you also need to analyze data at a fairly fast pace. So that's where a lot of the AI analytics techniques are very helpful.
Okay. So, why don't you share what maybe a few examples of how Prescience is helping companies with tax and compliance analytics? That will probably paint a good picture of the type of use cases that we are solving currently.
Yeah, sure. So we are working on a number of areas across scenarios that I mentioned. For example, one of the key things where AI or ML is very helpful is classification and categorization, because we are dealing with a large number of volumes, and it is also very dynamic. Large number of SKUs, it is also very dynamic. New products getting added, right? There are automated ways of categorization across different tax categories, which is either ML based or rule based. So all these need to be done at a categorization level. Then based on that categorization and how taxes are being charged, from a compliance perspective, we do anomaly detection. We use again AI techniques, we use rule based techniques, compare sometimes with each of them, right? So that is another area. Then we also work on a lot on the optical character recognition and converting a lot of the unstructured data into structured data, because the tax filings are usually PDFs or images that come from merchants or sellers, and then we need to reconcile. So reconciliation is a huge area. Out of that, we work on this OCR and AI based document processing, and then converting that unstructured data to structured, and then performing the reconciliation. So that is another area that we work in. And then we also work on creating the data infrastructure for all of these analysis to be done. So basically pulling in data from multiple systems, because you're dealing with an accounting system, you're dealing with CRM systems, you're dealing with the ERP systems. So data integrations, bringing all of that data, harmonizing them, right? Because each of these systems may have a different way of identifying the taxable entities as well as tax rates, all of that, right? Harmonizing the data and then building that data infrastructure. That's another area that we work in. So like this, there are, and then providing obviously decision support tools for the executives, creating dashboards, visualizations. All of these are areas that we work in.
Is there any predictable aspect of it?
Yeah. As I said, one of the places where we use a lot of predictive analytics is in the classification, automated AI-based categorization and classification of taxable items. Anomaly detection is again an area because where we use a lot of machine learning techniques, because the rule-based techniques not always are scalable, and we need to catch some of the anomalies on a real-time basis, and also going through all of the transactions is not possible always. So that's again an area where we work in. And then the other area that we also work in is there is the minimum tax rate called pillar 2, which is coming up, reporting around that, compliance reporting around pillar 2. So that's an area that we work in as well. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So, with so much of automation happening, I can only imagine there are concerns that companies may have with related to the accuracy and the auditability part of it as well.
Correct.
How do you like to address how these are managed or taken care of?
Yeah. So we usually adopt 2 or 3 techniques from a compliance reporting point of view and then audit. So whenever an AI, for example, an AI-based system is used for categorization, we also supplement that with a rules-based system. So we write and then make sure that we are comparing and then if there and flagging anomalies. So that's an area that we work in that and bringing in that explainability. And then explainability is also brought in through dashboards and reports that we periodically extract and publish on an ongoing basis. So this all adds towards more of bringing in more explainability as well as enhancing the compliance of the system and obviously the trust in the system.
Got it. So you spoke about the minimum tax rules, right?
Correct.
How do you think AI technologies is going to evolve to help businesses navigate through increasingly complex international tax landscape, basically?
Yeah, if you were to look at it, AI is very well suited to do that because once we train the model, then it is adaptive enough to start looking at different variants of the products coming in and categorize them on an automatic basis. And then also our rule-based compliance reporting system helps in supplementing that AI-based system. And then one important key feature that I talked about is the overall data harmonization piece because it is important to bring in data from all of these multiple systems and then ensure that we are talking the same language and then building a structured reporting system on top of that. So that's one of the areas that we are working in to enhance that compliance reporting.
Got it. So I think from tax and compliance analytics perspective, that should give viewers a good overview of how some of these AI and analytics technologies are being applied in different tax and compliance situations.
Correct.
And the rules change again from industry to industry. We spoke about e-commerce a little bit. Maybe in the coming episodes, we'll try and deep dive a bit into certain use cases to explain some of these in more nuances. But for now, we'll take a wrap, Shiva, for this episode. In the future episode, we'll talk about more on the use cases side.
Sure, Jaideep. Yeah, it's indeed a very exciting and emerging area. There is a lot of scope for data and AI techniques to be used to simplify the reporting and planning process.
Absolutely. And I think from our viewer side, companies who are currently facing such complexities, you definitely need to consider AI and analytics help in to sort things out. And I think in the future episodes, we will continue to touch upon different use cases so that it becomes easier depending on where you are to get you started on that journey.
Correct. Yeah.
All right, Shiva, thank you so much for sharing the insights.
Thank you.
We'll come back with another episode on AI Connect.
Sure.
Thank you.